It is estimated that in any given population, 3% of these people are considered to be sociopaths or psychopaths. In other words, capable of becoming serial killers. People who can find serial murder to be satisfying. How many serial killers are operating at any one time is not known exactly. But in the United States, experts believe there are over 500 active serial killers perpetrating evil on innocent victims. As a result, serial killers through the media, in books, movies,
people were shocked, they were awed, and they couldn't turn away.
Newspaper articles, the evening news.
He's allegedly confessed to dozens of murders from 1970 to 2005 in at least a dozen states.
And now on giant streaming platforms. Serial killers have become bigger than ever, bigger than life. Such portrayals include Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, 2019, a biographical portrayal of Ted Bundy. The 2022 The Good Nurse, the story of one of the most prolific serial killing healthcare workers, Charles Cullen. My Friend Dahmer, 2017, a biographical drama film about Jeffrey Dahmer. The Night Stalker, The Hunt for a Serial Killer, 2021, a documentary series delving into the murders perpetrated by Richard Ramirez. BTK, A Killer Among Us, 2019, a documentary that focuses on Dennis Rader. The Green River Killer, 2005, a feature film that explores the case of Gary Ridgway, one of the most prolific serial killers in United States history. The Sons of Sam, A Descent into Darkness, 2021, the story of David Berkowitz. But the flow of information goes the other way as well. There are 27 different ways in which serial killers communicate before, during, and after their murders. Of course, Jack the Ripper started it all when he wrote letters to the London police.
I send you half the kidney I took from one woman and preserved it for you. T'other piece, I fried and ate it. Was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer.
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, left gruesome symbols at his crime scenes. The recently captured Gilgo Beach serial killer, Rex Heuermann, who tormented the family of one of his murder victims.
Do you think you will ever see her again? You won't. I killed her.
The unknown Zodiac serial killer sent letters to the press that started, "This is the Zodiac speaking."
I will be reborn in paradise, and all those I have killed will be my slaves. I will not give you my name because you'll try to slow or stop my collecting slaves for my afterlife.
Dennis Rader, also known as BTK, murdered 10 people in Wichita, Kansas, between the years 1974 and 1991. And he might have gotten away with his brutal killings if his psychopathic nature hadn't longed for attention. Attention he got by taunting the police, letting law enforcement know he was smarter than them. Rader wrote,
"I did it myself, with no one's help. Let's put it straight."
Rader went on to provide graphic details that only someone at the crime scene would know. Then there is a little-known killer of 8 women, Keith Jesperson, the happy face killer. Jesperson wrote confessions on the wall of a truck stop he was passing through and signed the confession with a hand-drawn happy face.
I beat her to death and loved it. Yes, I'm sick, but I enjoyed myself too. 2 people took the blame and I'm free.
In this series, we will look at the many bizarre cases of the way serial killers are driven to communicate their psychopathic need to let the world know how powerful they were. How powerful they were because they can control the life and death of another human being. How powerful they are because they can terrify whole communities. Before the 20th century, some serial murderers posed their victims' corpses to convey a message. With the rise of mass media, serial killers also began sending verbal and written communications to journalists and authorities. Sending verbal and written communications designed in part to terrorize the community where their evil deeds were taking place. There is no better case to study this phenomenon than that of David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, whose serial killing terrorized New York City like none before or since.
I am the monster, Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. I love to hunt, prowling the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. The women of Queens are the prettiest of all. It must be the water they drink. I live for the hunt.
Berkowitz, the .44 caliber killer, or whatever he's referred to, he's also referred to Son of Sam because of the dog that he supposedly heard from that told him to commit these acts, which he claimed at one time. I think killed because he enjoyed it.
So what made the Son of Sam, or David Berkowitz, such a terrifying killer for the city of New York was the fact that he did not have an exact victim type. Though many of his victims included young women, sometimes they were accompanied by another young woman or by a date, and sometimes they were alone. That type of targeting of multiple types of individuals on the streets of New York made it so that it felt like almost anyone could be the next target. Initially, they thought that it was the type of hair that he was looking for, but interestingly enough, what drew David Berkowitz to kill specifically that person in that area was not hair type, nor outfit type, nor victim type, but whether or not he could get a parking spot. David Berkowitz having a parking spot was actually the factor in him deciding whether or not to kill that night.
The Son of Sam was born Richard David Falco in Brooklyn, New York in 1953. The adopted son of Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz, he was an odd and aloof child. He delighted in setting fires. Berkowitz joined the U.S. Air Force and served from 1971 to 1974. As he matured, a dark and compulsive need to kill took over his body. A need he could not suppress for very long.
Most serial killers are up close and personal with their victims. They use their hands. They strangle, they stab, they mutilate, and that's what makes them feel good. It's the control that they have over the pain and suffering of their poor victims. But Son of Sam was different. David Berkowitz used a firearm to kill his 6 victims, so he actually distanced himself from them. And it's that fact alone that makes you wonder what his motive was.
Berkowitz's reign of terror lasted from July 1976 to July 1977. He shot unsuspecting victims from point-blank range, killing 6 and wounding 7. During this time, the New York Police Department erupted with eyewitness accounts of a mysterious and elusive assailant. Terror engulfed the city. And like the Zodiac killer before him, the Son of Sam didn't care if his killings were public. Berkowitz's first shooting occurred on July 29, 1976. Donna Loria, 18, and her friend Jody Valenti, 19, were sitting in Valenti's double-parked Oldsmobile. Loria was struck by one bullet that killed her instantly. Valenti was shot in her thigh, but survived. On October 23, 1976, a similar shooting occurred in a secluded residential area of Flushing, Queens, next to Brown Park. Carl DeNaro, 20, and Rosemary Keenan, 18, were sitting in Keenan's parked car when the windows suddenly shattered. Keenan had only superficial injuries from the broken glass, but DeNaro eventually needed a metal plate to replace a portion of his skull. Next, high school students Donna DeMasi, 16, and Joanne Lamino, 18, were shot as they walked home from a movie on November 27, 1976. Berkowitz produced a revolver, and he shot each of the victims once. And as they fell to the ground injured, he fired several more times. DeMasi's wound was not life-threatening. Lamino was hit in the back and hospitalized in serious condition. On January 30th, 1977, Christine Freund and her fiancé John Deal were sitting in Deal's car. 3 gunshots penetrated the car, and in a panic, Deal drove away for help. He suffered minor superficial injuries, but Freund was shot twice and died several hours later at the hospital. Then on March 8, 1977, Columbia University student Virginia Voskerichian, 19, was walking home from school when she was confronted by Berkowitz. A bullet from his gun hit Voskerichian in the head, killing her. A month later, on April 17, 1977, Alexander Esau, 20, and Valentina Suriani, 18, were sitting in Suriani's car when each was shot twice. Suriani died at the scene, and Esau died in the hospital several hours later without being able to describe his attacker. On June 26, 1977, there was another shooting. Sal Lupo, 20, and Judy Placido, 17, were sitting in Lupo's parked car at about 3 a.m. when 3 gunshots blasted through the vehicle. Both victims survived their injuries. Lupo told police that the young couple had been discussing the Son of Sam case only moments before the shooting. Berkowitz's final killing happened in Brooklyn. On July 31, 1977, Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante, both 20, were in Violante's car. They were kissing when Berkowitz approached within 3 feet of the passenger side of Violante's car and fired 4 rounds into the car, striking both victims in the head. Violante lost his left eye, but Moskowitz died from her injuries. The Son of Sam added to the reign of terror by sending letters around the city, particularly taunting police.
Dear Captain Joseph Borelli, I'm deeply hurt by you calling me a woman hater. I'm not, but I am a monster. I am the Son of Sam. I'm a little brat. Police, let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back. I'll be back. To be interpreted as bang, bang, bang. Oh. Years in murder. Mr. Monster.
It's a really fascinating element to it because you can tell that there was additional excitement for the killer associated with the public attention. That the killing obviously created excitement in their mind and the desire to repeat, but that the attention that it was getting, the public outcry, it's almost an additional form of sadism. It's continuing the sadism because now you're horrifying the public. You're not just victimizing this one individual, but you're also horrifying everyone else and getting everyone else excited. And it obviously played into this person's fantasy.
He also sent a letter to famous newspaper columnist Jimmy Breslin.
JB, please inform all the detectives working the case that I wish them the best of luck. Keep them digging, drive on, think positive, get off your butts, knock on coffins. Upon my capture, I promise to buy all the guys working on the case a new pair of shoes if I can get up the money. Son of Sam.
However, the strangest letters went to a man named Greg Glassman, a neighbor in his apartment building.
You, Greg Glassman, are truly Satan's child, and now he wants you by his side. Come join him in death, little ones. Master Glassman, you're a man with the power of darkness. You're hereby ordered to unleash a terror upon the people, destroy all good, and ruin people's lives. Begin immediately.
However, the Son of Sam's psychopathic killing came to an end when police were able to track a parking ticket issued to a car parked near Berkowitz's last victim. That car belonged to a David Berkowitz. In early August 1977, the police arrested Berkowitz outside his Yonkers apartment. The Son of Sam's year of killing was finally over. New Yorkers could freely go out again. However, when they went into Berkowitz's apartment, there was a message on the wall.
So once they arrested David Berkowitz, they looked in his apartment, which was on the top floor of an apartment block called the Pine Hill apartment buildings. And he lived in 7E on the 7th floor. And when they went into his apartment, they discovered that his communication with the police didn't end with letters. In fact, he had left a message on the wall of his apartment. The message claimed that his name was Mr. Williams and introduced a hole in the wall, which he said was the location that children were being trained to kill. He dared the public to wait until the children grew up.
Initially, David Berkowitz, Son of Sam, was seen by mental health professionals, including psychiatrists, as certifiably insane. You know, he talked to dogs, he hallucinated. Well, it turned out that he was malingering, that he actually wasn't the least bit out of touch with reality, that he knew exactly what he was doing, and he did the wrong thing because that's what he wanted to do, and he didn't have what it took to stop him. That is, he was a sociopath who didn't have the conscience, the superego, to prevent him from killing. But it took a long time before he was seen for what he really was. And even to this day, having been incarcerated for decades, he now claims to have found religion. Well, maybe he has and maybe he hasn't, but I can tell you that sociopaths really don't change. We don't know how to treat them. We don't know how to rehabilitate them. Chances are he is just thinking of manipulating the system by making himself out to be a transformed, good person.
Initially, it was thought there was no sexual component to Berkowitz's killings. But
Berkowitz is a serial killer, you know that, and he was basically in one place, a neighborhood, where he killed lovers' ladies. Okay, well, how is that a serial killer? What's the sexual component to that? Well, the sexual component is he would come back to the crime scene and masturbate. So there was even a sexual component to what Berkowitz did, even though his murders were not hands-on. He would fire into the car.
What is clear is that communications were an essential part of terrorizing New York. Berkowitz summed it up perfectly when he said,
I didn't want to hurt them. I only wanted to kill them.
There's much debated about the case of Jack the Ripper, but experts agree it became the model for serial killers to terrify a community. It began in London, the year 1888.
Well, there's a few things about Jack the Ripper that I think made it become such a big deal. I think, first of all, you have a big city. And so there's, and with press and all of that attendant. You had, the audacity of the crimes, which were often committed, right on the street where people could walk by any moment. Multiple events in a single day. And then you had the fact that the killer sent letters to the press and got the press involved. I think those things, in addition to just the viciousness and brutality, made it the huge deal that it became.
The Jack the Ripper event began when police discovered the mutilated body of a woman.
What we have is a number of very gruesome murders that get more gruesome as time goes on. Now, we don't quite know how many people were killed by the Whitechapel murderer. Most books say 5. I personally think 7. At the time, the newspapers said it could be as many as 11. And it's very difficult to say because, of course, the MO got worse as the killings went on.
All of the Ripper's victims had one thing in common. Had something that characterized many of serial killers' victims. One of the aspects that made the Ripper case the model for many serial cases going forward. The victims were human beings that were lost to society.
The less dead is a term I coined to deal with and try to explain the phenomenon of all or most of the victims of serial killers. According to a database that my wife and I have developed, at least 75% of the victims we can find within the last 105, 110 years would classify as less dead. And by less dead, they were less alive. In other words, they're marginalized people of society. They're throwaways. People don't care about them. They're prostitutes. They're women out by themselves. They're, say, elderly women out by themselves. They're hospital patients who are helpless. They're young kids who are runaways. People just consider them as below society. They don't want to see them. And of course, when they're gone, they don't see them. Another way to put it is the best commonality that I can come up with for a serial killer is that he or she, in most cases, will attack a vulnerable victim.
Then there is what has become known in serial killer case studies as the signature of the serial killer. No empathetic feelings for a victim, and the psychopathic emotional gratification the killer receives from the evil event. Which in the case of the Ripper, points to some sort of satisfaction derived from mutilating a female body. And of course, the Ripper case established the interaction between a serial killer and the public, and in many cases the press, and even taunting law enforcement.
All the bodies were lying on their back, and their legs were opened, their clothes were pulled up, so everything was on display. Unlike other killers, the bodies were simply left for the public to find for the maximum shock and horror. And whoever the Whitechapel murderer was, I suspect he followed the news very, very carefully and would be enormously proud of what he'd done, because he wanted to shock, he wanted to outrage society, especially polite society. The ladies and gentlemen of the West End over their breakfast tables would have read these accounts with shock and horror, while of course secretly loving every minute of it.
Of course, Jack the Ripper was never caught. Here again, the Ripper case established many of the reasons why so many serial killer cases have gone unsolved. Poor or no forensics, incompetency of law enforcement, no witnesses, and the stealth of the murderer. The only real clues to his identity the police had lay in 3 letters. The first was sent after the killings of Mary Ann Nichols on August 31st and Annie Chapman on September 9th. Known as the Dear Boss letter, it was signed by the serial killer Jack the Ripper.
Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me in just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work that last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write it with it, but it went thick like glue. I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers, just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp. I want to get to work right away if I can get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name.
The second was a postcard received after the brutal slayings of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes on September 30th.
I was not codding dear old boss when I gave you the tip. You'll hear about Saucy Jackie's work tomorrow, double the event this time. Number 1 squealed a bit, couldn't finish straight off. Ha! Not the time to get ears off for police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper.
The final authentic letter was sent 16 days after the double murders of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes to George Lusk, president of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. It was inside a small cardboard box with half a human kidney and is known as the notorious From Hell letter.
From Hell. Mr. Lusk, sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman and preserved it for you. T'other piece, I fried and ate it. Was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk.
Henceforth, the Jack the Ripper case firmly established the relationship between the serial killer, the press, law enforcement, and terrorizing a whole community for all future psychopathic serial killers to communicate. Communicate about their power over life and death. Early 20th century New Orleans was the birthplace of jazz and the home of a brutal axe-wielding serial killer. the mysterious man known as the Axeman of New Orleans, and is the earliest case in the United States, where, like Jack the Ripper, the public was terrorized through the media by a serial killer. The Axeman wrote,
"They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death."
Who wrote those terrifying words published in the New Orleans Times-Picayune on March 13, 1919? Well, we don't know.
There's a lot of unsolved serial killer mysteries, but this one is one that's particularly famous and particularly memorable because it's so gruesome and so horrible just to imagine. You almost think it must be a wild man. He's got an axe, he's coming through the door, he's slashing at people, and he doesn't always kill them. So if he's trying to kill people, trying to murder, then why do some of them does he attack and leave them living? Why does, in some cases, does he attack and kill one person and leave another person alive? There's an element of it that almost seems it must be, it's like is it the wolf man? Is it the full moon? Is it the, you know, when the crazies come out, you know, voodoo? I don't know. It's a very strange event.
In December 1917, the Axeman attacked his first victim, an Italian grocer, Epifanio Andolino.
And this time he's using an axe. And again, he goes after the man. He threatens the woman when she wakes up. But he doesn't hurt her. He goes after the man, hits him a few times with the axe. In the end, doesn't do much damage to him. Walks out past the girls in the house. He walks to the bedroom where the girls are and out the door. He's clearly after the male, the man of the house, the grocer.
Very strange, killing men, not women, in their homes in the middle of the night, with no apparent sexual or financial satisfaction. Now, the real killing began. For over a year, from May 1918 to October 1919, the city of New Orleans, Louisiana, was in a frenzied panic over a roaming serial killer, now dubbed the Axeman. The first to succumb to the sharp blade of the Axeman was an Italian grocer named Joseph Maggio and his wife Catherine on May 23, 1918. As they lay sleeping in their apartment above the Maggio grocery store, the killer cut the couple's throats with a straight razor before bashing in their heads with an axe. A little more than a month later, another couple was attacked in the early morning hours of June 27, 1918. Louis Bessemer, a grocer, and his mistress. Just 5 days later, yet another grocer, a man named Joseph Romano, was attacked on August 10th. In the middle of his killing spree, the Axeman wrote to the paper,
"Now to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it on Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe.
Then, for several weeks, all was quiet, but people still lived in fear. On August 10, 1919, another grocer named Steve Boca was attacked in his bedroom as he slept. Boca awoke during the night to find a dark figure looming over his bed. Suffering from a blow from an axe, he survived. Like others who had been assailed by the Axeman, nothing was taken from his home, and a panel on the back door of the home had been chiseled away. Once again, New Orleans was in a state of hysteria. But nothing more would be heard from the Axeman for nearly 2 months. The last attack came on October 27, 1919, when grocer Mike Pepitone was slain. That night, his wife heard a noise and arrived at the door of the bedroom just as a large axe-wielding man was fleeing the scene. So many bloody axes. That's what remained, since he always left his instruments of death behind. For the Axeman, panic and terror in the community through his communication with the press were the primary and immediate consequences of his ghastly murders. While there were many suspects, no one was ever arrested. However, the motive of the Axeman has emerged, one that was driven by the psychopathic joy of killing a fellow human being.
So I think he likes the blood. He likes the up close and personal. He likes the person lying there helpless asleep. The victimology is precise enough that it seems to me pretty clear that somebody had a grudge against Italian grocers. And the eyewitness identifications are such, I think we can say this person was white, he was male, and he was a working man of some sort.
And took pleasure in terrorizing all of New Orleans through his clever words in the press. No serial killer is better known for terrorizing a community through letters to the press and belittling law enforcement than the Zodiac. Letters that included this.
This is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, have you cracked the last cipher I sent you? My name is... I am mildly curious as to how much money you have on my head now. I hope you do not think that I was the one who wiped out the Blue Meanie with a bomb at the cop station, even though I talked about killing children with one. It just wouldn't do to move in on someone else's territory. But there is more glory in killing a cop than a kid because a cop can shoot back. I have killed 10 people to date. It would have been a lot more except that my bus bomb was a dud. I was swamped out by the rain we had a while back.
Who was this brutal murderer who mocked law enforcement? The serial killer who scared and traumatized the people of San Francisco in the late 1960s? Nobody knows, but his reign of terror began on December 28, 1968, when a pair of teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were shot dead while enjoying a quiet moment of holding hands. 6 months later, another young couple, Michael McGow and Darlene Farron, were shot while they parked in a lover's lane. Darlene died instantly. Miraculously, Michael survived, though he was hit 4 times. The Zodiac then made the first of his terrifying contacts with the police. He called and said,
"You will
find the kids in a brown car. I shot them with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Within days, the Bay Area was thrown into a panic. A nameless, faceless killer was stalking lovers' lanes looking for people to kill. Clearly, the Zodiac loved the publicity for his murders as much as the killing. He was a vicious predator, feeding off the fear of the people in the Bay Area, feeding off his power of life and death. The Zodiac continued to taunt the police and the media. In a coded message, he declared,
I will be reborn in paradise, and all those I have killed will be my slaves. I will not give you my name because you'll try to slow or stop my collecting slaves for my afterlife.
Fear spread through the area. Anyone could be the next victim of this faceless killer. The Zodiac struck again on September 29, 1969. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a late afternoon picnic at Napa Valley Lake. What happened next left Cecilia dead and Brian mutilated for life. Brian told police that a man had been lurking in the shade of some nearby trees. The next moment, he was beside them. He wore a black hood with eye slits and the Zodiac symbol painted on it. Holding the frightened students at gunpoint, the Zodiac bound them with clothesline. But the ordeal wasn't over. He set upon them with a butcher knife. When the savage attack was over, the Zodiac walked away, leaving his victims to die.
The police shall never catch me because I have been too clever for them.
But he left his signature, a Zodiac symbol inscribed on the car, and a phone call reporting his gruesome crime to the police. Cecilia Shepard was conscious when the police arrived and gave a detailed description of the Zodiac's costume. But there was little else to go on. This brutal killer remained unidentified. Shepard lapsed into a coma on the way to the hospital and died 2 days later. But Hartnell survived to recount his tale to the press. Less than 2 weeks after the Zodiac attacked Cecilia and Brian, he made what many believe was his last kill. On October 11, 1969, cab driver Paul Stein was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Though many believed, hoped, he had stopped killing, the Zodiac taunted police and terrorized the Bay Area for years afterwards with cryptic messages. A 340-symbol cipher that was mailed a month after the cab driver's murder was decoded in 2020 and was deemed pretty much meaningless. The Zodiac is still America's most famous serial killer that has never been identified. But his communication still haunts us.
I look like the description passed out only when I do my thing. The rest of the time, I look entirely different. I shall not tell you what my disguise consists of when I kill.